So, my name is Max Bernstein. I am 24 years old, originally from Orange County, California actually. I went to Esperanza High School, and about 3 years ago I made Aliyah. Who here knows what making Aliyah is? So, Aliyah means moving to Israel. Now when I moved to Israel, I moved by myself, without my family. I joined the army as a lone soldier, and I served in the army as a paratrooper in a combat brigade. I served for 2 years, and during my time in the military, I saw action in the war in Gaza in 2014, and I served on almost every one of Israel's borders. So today, we are here to talk to you guys a little bit about what's going on in Israel right now, what's the feeling of the media, what's the feeling of the narrative war that's happening, and to tell you guys a bit about our stories, and of course to answer any questions that you guys have. I also want to just mention for a moment the program that we're here with is obviously called Reservists on Duty. As you guys know, we are reservists in the Army. And what this program was originally started for was to combat BDS and anti-Semitism in the media and around the world. And so what we're doing now as part of our delegation is to talk to Jewish youth and other people and to explain the real situation of what's going on.
So my name is Shlomo O'Gara. I was born in Miami in 1989. My parents are originally from Peru. They fled Peru in 1988 because of terrorism. So I always grew up with stories about how bombings would go off in the center of Lima and how the Jewish community were afraid of walking out and being unseen. So it was very, very difficult for them. So they came to Miami. My dad was a dishwasher. My mom was barely employed. I grew up going to public school most of my life, but I had a very strong Jewish identity. The thing was is that I was a little bit mixed because I didn't really fit in with the Jewish kids because they were a lot better off economically than I was. I didn't get along with the Hispanic kids because they were Catholic and I was Jewish. So it was that kind of dynamic thing. I didn't really know where to go in life or what to do, and I was really confused identity-wise. So I figured I just wanted to be as American as possible, play football, and just try to be as American as I possibly can. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL when I was younger, until I saw the movie Operation Jonathan, which is the raid in Entebbe when the Israeli Special Forces in 1979 saved Jews that were held hostage in an African country by Palestinian terrorists. So that inspired me to actually join the IDF. So I got to college, and I would keep seeing images all the time on CNN, Fox, about rockets being fired at Israel, and it really hit me hard. I really felt like, what am I doing with my life? I'm working at Applebee's, $7 an hour. I'm not really achieving much in my life. I'm not really making a positive, anything positive at all. I need to make a difference. So at 23 years old, I left everything I had, and I went to Israel. I joined a combat unit, just like Max, but it was in a different place called Kfir. I was a machine gunner, 7.62 caliber. I also served during the time of the last Gaza war in 2014. And now I finished the army about 1.5 years ago. Today I work as security guard in Kiryat Arba, Hebron, and I help people with tours. I'm a college student, and I'm also a volunteer for the Gideon Project, which is under the Reservists on Duty. The Gideon Project brings people who are lone soldiers like us to come to talk different places about Israel, to try to combat the narrative warfare that's going on, which Palestinian terrorists and their supporters are trying to delegitimize us as a state. So because we have been in the army, and we also are Americans as well, we can better speak to communities and better have a conversation and really tell you what the reality is on the ground as opposed to what people may hear in the media.
So we have a quick presentation. What we want to roll through is just to show you guys a few of the things that are coming out in the media, that the world is saying, things that simply aren't true. So we're going to show you, for instance, this headline, Gaza village flooded as Israel opens dam gates. And an entire article was published about this on the internet that thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people read. What is the issue with an article like this? The fact that it's not true, and why do we know it's not true? Because there are no dams in Israel, so it couldn't possibly be true. Another example of blatant lies. This man, Professor Joseph Massad, said Tel Aviv is the only Western city that does not have any Arab or Muslim inhabitants. Just a quick raise of hands, how many people here have been to Israel? So vast majority, it seems. I assume that you guys all know that many Arabs do live in Israel, and they're very happy with their lives in Israel, and they're a very important part of Israeli society. He also says Netanyahu called to expel the 1.6 million Palestinians who are Israeli citizens, which again we know is not true because Benjamin Netanyahu himself, the Prime Minister of Israel, said that not only do we not want to expel any Palestinians, but we want to protect their rights, just as we would protect the rights of Israeli citizens.
So actually, right before we actually came to America to do our presentation, we had to go to Tel Aviv for 2 days. I live in Kiryat Arba, so to get to Tel Aviv, it's really, really difficult for me. It's about 2 hours. Anyways, when I was there in Tel Aviv, I probably heard half of the time Arabic. I saw this girl. She looked like a Jewish, like a religious girl. She had a long skirt, long sleeves. She was talking on the phone, and all of a sudden you hear, "Ma mushkila, ma mushkila," no problem, no problem. Like you hear Arabic in Tel Aviv all the time. And there's even a movie that came out. It's called Not Here and Not There, which is a movie about how Arabs are moving to Tel Aviv, and they're getting jobs in high tech or going to college. So this is just a blatant lie, just another way that people are trying to delegitimize us and trying to sell lies on the internet or on social media that people are buying. So this is the reality of what it actually is. The Hamas charter actually does not recognize the state of Israel. They want to, the ideology is a very religious, fundamentalist ideology. They want to wipe us off the face of the earth. This gentleman right here, his name is George Galloway. This is Ismail Haniyeh, who is the president of Hamas. George Galloway is a former member of parliament for Great Britain. And he himself, even though he is not even connected to the conflict at all, supports Hamas, supports terrorism, and supports, even banned Israelis coming into his town in Great Britain. I mean, this is how much this man is so hateful, but he has support because he's able to speak these lies about how bad Israel is, which is not true, like the lies you've seen before, and people buy it. They say support Palestinians, stop Zionist genocide in Gaza. Gaza has 1.8 million people that are living there, and the population is growing. That's just a blatant lie. If there was genocide, I mean, there would be nothing there if it was in reality.
So, this is something that is reality. After the war in Gaza in 2014, what the United States military does is they do studies on conflicts around the globe. That way they can learn for their own military. For the United States military, what can we do better? How can we better protect civilians? How can we better prevent friendly fire? And so this is Martin E. Dempsey, who is the highest ranking officer in the United States military, and he himself said that the Israeli soldiers that served in the Gaza war went above and beyond to protect the Gaza citizens and to prevent any unnecessary casualties from combat. Now, as a combat soldier who served in this war, I can personally say that this is 100% true. Not only does the IDF's doctrine say that we have to do everything in our power to protect civilians, but morally as well. Every single person that I served with would do everything that they could to make sure that women and children and innocent people were always safe.
So this is also another example of what the media here does not show you, which is how much they want to use their own people as human shields, and what they'll try to do. For example, you see a child here with an M16 rifle. He looks no more than maybe 10 years old, 11 years old. I mean, at this point, this reminds you of like child soldiers in Sierra Leone that we used to fight people in fact, this kid should be playing video games or Grand Theft Auto or some other things that kids do these days, or Halo 2. He shouldn't be having an M16 in his hand. This is the Hamas combat doctrine. It says, it's how they do urban warfare inside an urban area. So, for example, they will say you can use schools, you can use mosques to hide missiles in. You can have civilians stand outside on the roof. These are all tactics that they use to try to put their own civilians at risk and also try to make Israel look bad by trying to make Israel bomb civilians, which gives them two PR things. One, they say we're fighting Israel and they're trying to get support for it. So they get support because they're able to put bodies on the ground that have been killed and say this is Israel's fault, and it's a great PR campaign, and that's what they do.
Okay, so that was essentially an overview of what's happening in the media right now and how a lot of the problems that we're facing are just as much a narrative war as they are actual terrorism and violence. What we want to do now is tell you guys some personal stories from our experiences, kind of to lighten things up a little bit, but also so that you can hear what's going on from someone who's actually experienced these things and from someone who's actually been there. So I'll tell a little bit about myself, and then we'll have fun.